record this mother. Okay, for starters, I want to say I can't even believe we're in week 3 already. This is going by faster than any of the other groups that I've led in the past. I don't know why that is, but it's just flying by. And over the weekend, when I was thinking about, it's week 3 and, getting the emails prepped and whatnot, it's like, I can't believe it's week 3. This is nuts. We're like hitting the halfway mark. So that's exciting. It's definitely very exciting. I want to share another thing with you. I picked up this on my way home from the office today. Now, y'all know I love Ticino, and I swear I should be like on their payroll because I tell everyone they need to be drinking Ticino. Well, one of my clients on Thursday last week, she said, I've been drinking the dark chocolate Ticino with pistachio nut milk at night, and it's amazing. I was like, I didn't even know they had a dark chocolate. So I picked this up on my way home today. They've got it at Sprouts for those of you who have a Sprouts nearby. And I got to tell you, sweet mother of liberty, this is incredible. And I'm not doing the pistachio milk. I'm just doing good old fashioned oat milk, but get your hands on some dark chocolate Ticino. And this just takes the cake for any nighttime toddy that you might be missing of late. So so I wanted to share that with you and give you some excitement about a new drink. And then we're going to go into week 3, which is wild. I appreciate everybody's attendance. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate the questions that I'm getting on Facebook, and I also appreciate the questions that I'm getting through email. And I hope I'm able to stay on top of them the best that I can. There's a couple of emails I know I still need to respond to today. And I'll get to it tonight after the show, or maybe I'll hit it first thing in the morning. But thank you so much it's such an enthusiastic group, and that gives me that just makes me really excited. So without further ado, let's find the old screen share action and let's dive into week 3, brain fog and insomnia. But first, I need to sip my dark chocolate Ticino. Sweet mother. Okay. Insomnia. Week 3, brain fog and insomnia. We're actually going to talk about insomnia first and then dive into brain fog, but insomnia is common. It's sometimes debilitating for the perimenopausal and postmenopausal woman. Lack of sleep obviously aggravates stress, and stress is a big factor, a causative factor that I keep coming back to time and time again. Lack of sleep aggravates stress. Lack of sleep aggravates our memory. And it also is a causative factor for depression. Sleep deprivation due to our modern lifestyle has a profound effect on our food choices. We all know that when I don't know, maybe you don't, but when I'm sleepy, I don't get a good night's sleep. I have cravings the next day for all the comfort foods. I want fat, salt, and sugar. I mean, I want all the Reese's peanut butter cups. And, there's biology behind that. Sleep deprivation affects our food choices. It also contributes to metabolic syndrome, obesity, and diabetes, which that simply circles us back to week 1 and weight gain or stubborn weight that we just can't seem to quit. Now, it's been rightly stated in the old school Ayurvedic texts that happiness and misery, proper and improper growth, strength and weakness, potency and sterility, knowledge and ignorance, life and death, all of these hinge on the quality of our sleep. And this is taken from the Charak Samhita, which is one of the seminal texts on Ayurvedic medicine. Pretty much our life depends on the quality of our sleep. We know now that people who live outside, who live out of doors, they find their rhythms closely entrained by the rising and the setting of the sun. But most of us live cut off from the natural world. Sunrise and sunset, whoops, sorry about that. Sunrise and sunset don't really mean much to us these days because we're surrounded by artificial stimulation. We're bombarded by it all day long. And we know that late circadian timing and sleep timing are associated with negative cognitive performance, also associated with daytime sleepiness, substance abuse, mood disorders, and again, diabetes and obesity. There was a study published in Current Biology, which is linked on the screen. If you want to take a screenshot, please do. This was in Colorado, showed that circadian and sleep timing occur earlier after spending just one weekend camping in the summer. This weekend exposure to natural light was sufficient to achieve a 69% shift in circadian timing and circadian rhythm. That's significant. The Western perspective of insomnia, that's backwards on the top, we're going insomnia first, is due to excessive thinking and stimulation, which ultimately disrupts our inner clock. The Eastern, when I say Eastern, I'm speaking specifically to Ayurvedic medicine. The Eastern perspective is Vata. Here we go again, all Vata, all the time. Vata impacting our nervous system. Primarily, the cause of insomnia is excessive thinking and sensory stimulation, which ultimately disrupt our clock. So what do we do about it? Well, for thinking, I think everybody on the screen knows that meditation is by far the most useful tool in our toolkit to, and I mean, we're not trying to stop the mind from thinking, right? We're just trying to harness the thoughts so that they don't run away with us. I mean, the mind has such a resistance to being in the present moment. And I think I can speak for most of us on the screen that when we lie awake at night at 3 a.m., unable to get back to sleep, it's not really because we're present, but rather it's because we've been dragged into the past and we're reliving a moment that we wish had been different, or we've been catapulted into the future where we are planning, scheming, trying to manipulate, or we're rehearsing a conversation or a confrontation that may or may not ever take place. So the idea behind meditation, if you're not practicing already, I just want to give you a pass that it's not about trying to just shut the mind down, but it's rather the way I like it to put it is just finding the gap between the thoughts and then lengthening that gap so that we can harness the thoughts and allow them to kind of circle through a basket and then weave on out the other side. So thinking, the remedy for thinking really comes down to meditation. And that's not to say that it works like a charm every single time. And those of you on the screen who are practitioners, I think probably would agree with that. Some days are better than others. And the remedy for stimulation, that this intense stimulation, sensory stimulation, is taking a tech time out. I think that's the biggest thing we can do is shut down our screens. So if we want to recover our life, we must recover our sleep. And this starts with, voila, once again, decreasing stress. Cultivating a low stress lifestyle is absolutely paramount to everything else. Stress reduction trumps any herbal treatment. Any herbal treatment, and it can be used alongside an herbal treatment for maximum benefit. And that's where this motto that I work by, no pill without a skill. I mean, you could say no tincture, no extract, no tea, whatever. No pill, no herbal supplement without a skill. I can't tell you how many women that I work with and have worked with in the past who are really dedicated to their work. I mean, just full on dedicated to their careers, powerful careers, very impactful careers, working hard, working heavy, burning the wick at all the ends, and they're utterly exhausted. And a handful of them have come to me requesting, give me something. And I'm like, I can't. There's nothing I can give you to decrease the stress of your job. I mean, we can work on, lifestyle, but a handful, they don't want that. They don't want to take the time out for meditation practice or, for any of the other tools that are in our toolkit. And I don't judge them for that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But come back when we can work together, because I can't just throw valerian or jetamunsi. I can't just throw herbs at you. And that's not going to take care of your boss or your coworkers or your colleague. I called a friend of mine today who was a colleague of mine when I was in the hospitality industry. And I called her just to get her opinion on hiring a chef for a client of mine. That was it. And we were, she has a very powerful job for a very big organization, and she's at the top of her game, totally at the top of her. I'm really proud of her, top of her game. And I didn't get 2 sentences into my phone call with her and she started to cry. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? What did I say? She's like, no, it's nothing. It's just hearing someone's voice that's not in the kitchen with me right now, that's not in the industry right now, just somebody on the outside, just hearing someone else's voice. It just kind of like broke her down because she's exhausted, absolutely fatigued and exhausted. And, of course, I'm like, hey, if I can help, I will, but, I can't come in and cook for you. But, there's labor shortages and the whole thing. I mean, there's just all the things, but she's a perfect illustration of a woman who's at the top of her game and is just completely, she's just under an incredible amount of stress. So how do we got to figure out a way to balance, work-life balance. One of the suggestions that I have for this particular situation of trying to decrease stress in a high impact lifestyle is yoga nidra. And probably everybody knows what I'm talking about, but yoga nidra is, there are abundant studies right now on the use of yoga nidra for sleep, the use of yoga nidra for stress reduction, and the use of yoga nidra for PTSD. And PTSD is often a causative factor for why we can't go to sleep or why we wake up at night. So that would be something to look into if you haven't tried it yet. And I'm happy to offer suggestions of links that I personally enjoy and that my clients enjoy. I'm happy to share those with you. Also, in addition, treatment in order to recover our slumber and recover our life would be avoiding caffeine, limiting caffeine, alcohol, and certain foods, ideally eating at least 2 hours before you go to bed, no late night meals. Caffeine can stay in our system for several hours, we know that, and alcohol reduces our REM sleep and it interrupts our circadian rhythm. So last week I had a call with a past client of mine, a guy who I haven't seen in a couple of years, but he circled back around, and he's great and very transparent. And when he emailed me, he said, I know you're going to ask me for a food journal, so I'm already keeping one. And we met last week. He's in San Antonio, and I just had to laugh. I was like, are you ready for a come to Jesus meeting? And he, laughed and was like, I know what you're going to say. And I was just like, wow, you're just like dropping into a bottle of Pinot Noir every single night. Here's again another situation of his wife has a super high stress occupation. He's got a high stress career. They're navigating kids who are incredibly involved in school and after school activities, and having dinner at 9:30 at night to accommodate soccer practice and all the things. And I mean, so we get to navigate how do we take care of mom and dad so that, the family stays, the family stays good, but they're the anchors, right? But he said I had to be transparent. And the thing about this, I'm only telling you this because he's a real data junkie. He wears the Garmin watch, and he loves to wake up in the morning and like check all of his stats. And he said to me, I asked him, I said, do you know how many ounces of wine are in a bottle? And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like putting on his food journal, 24 ounces. That's like 25 ounces is a bottle, right? So I mean, and he was transparent. We had a good laugh about it because he knows I don't judge him. I'm like, okay, dude, so let's talk about this. And is there a sufficient substitute? And let's look at how it's affecting your sleep, because I know you love the data. And he's like, yeah, I wake up in the morning and I look at my stats and I'm sleeping like crap. I'm passing out. I don't have any trouble when I hit the pillow, my eyes close and I'm out, but it's not real sleep. So his circadian rhythm and his sleep cycles and his sleep quality are extremely disrupted. So here we are in week 3. Y'all are moving into week 3 without your evening nightcap or your nighttime toddy. And that's awesome because you're giving your body the rest and the reset that it needs to bring back some natural circadian rhythms. So we want to also, there's certain foods we want to avoid. Avoid tyramine. Now, what the heck is that? Tyramine is, it releases norepinephrine for starters, which is a brain stimulant. And you'll find tyramine, or tyramine, it's sometimes pronounced, in foods like aged cheeses. Yeah, I know, sorry. I love aged sharp cheddar as much as the next babe. It's also found in red wine. Some beers have it, cured meats have it, and smoked fish has it. So if you're tempted to snack on the aged cheddar and a glass of red wine at 9 o'clock at night, has the tyramine in it. It's actually a brain stimulant. So instead, so what's the substitute? So instead, we want to opt for foods that are rich in L-tryptophan. And L-tryptophan is an essential amino acid that increases production of serotonin. And we find this in foods such as brown rice, wild salmon, quinoa, pumpkin seeds, oats, bananas. So perhaps, if you've had a late lunch or an early dinner, or maybe you had to skip dinner for some reason, you don't want to eat a big meal before you go to bed. I mean, just like a quarter cup of warm brown rice with a little ghee on it, or maybe a little olive oil on it, some salt and pepper. Banana would be fine, or maybe just, snacking on some pumpkin seeds or quinoa would help with that. And then tending to your circadian rhythm. And now, one of the things that I tell clients that I work with who have difficulty with sleep, one of the first things you can do, and I think one of the might not be easy, but it's a simple remedy once we get entrained to it, is get outside first thing in the morning. So it's easier to wake up at a certain time and just force yourself out of bed than it is to go to bed and say, okay, go to sleep. We can't make ourselves just lights out and start snoozing right at 10:30. But on the other end of that, we can pull ourselves out of bed at 6 or 5:45. And there's plenty of research out there expressing and explaining the physiological response to being out in the first light of day. Now, if you can go outside and get a 10-minute walk immediately upon rising, oftentimes for so many people that I've worked with, that often does the trick. If for whatever reasons that's not applicable or can't be done, okay, no big deal. But maybe at the office during lunch, you can schedule just a 10-minute break to walk around the building or to get outside and walk down the street and back. But giving yourself exposure to natural light. If you're lucky enough to have a window in your office, turn your screen off for 10 minutes a day and turn your seat around and stare at the window. Anything to get some natural sunlight. Moving into perspective, some sleep suggestions to set yourself up with good sleep hygiene. Really important to set up your sleep sanctuary. Now, I have a thing about TVs in the bedroom. They don't belong and they need to get out. The only time it's okay to watch TV in bed is when you're staying at a schwank hotel and throwing caution to the wind and having room service and, you know, living the life of Riley 1 or 2 nights. But overall, TV needs to be in the den, the living room, the family room, or on the back patio, but not in the bedroom. Your bedroom is for 2 things. It's for sleep and sex. Now, that's not to say that you can't have sex in your kitchen. Have at it, but don't bring your kitchen into the bedroom. That's all I'm going to say about that. So setting up your sleep sanctuary, cool the room, dark, you know, blackout shades if you need it, of course, you know, but I still want you to get up at 6 and get outside first thing in the morning. Dim your lights is a big one. And yeah, as the sun is dimming outside, we could take that cue and start dimming our lights inside as well. No overhead lights past, say, 7. Only lamps at that point, maybe just candles. Wow, that would be sultry. Screens off. This is a good one. So some of you know my friend Jamie Elmer, yoga teacher, and some of you have worked with her, and I know some of you on the screen have even had workshops with her when she would come to Oklahoma. And Jamie's a dear friend. We go way back. And I remember a long time ago, she told me, she said, I'm doing this challenge where I'm turning my phone off. I'm turning my phone off an hour before I go to bed. And I'm not turning it on an hour after I wake up in the morning. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But I thought, if Jamie's doing it, I'm gonna do it too. So whatever Jamie does is good for me, right? So, because I love her and I adore her. So I thought, all right, I'll give it a go. I got to tell you, ladies, game freaking changer, big time. So I had to make a plan because I use my phone as an alarm. I use my phone for meditating. So what did I do? I bought a cheap kitchen timer for my meditation practice, a little digital timer, no problem there. And I went to Walmart and I bought a cheapo $10 digital alarm clock. Nothing fancy. Yes, I would love to have one of those alarms that like starts glowing like the sun, or the, you know, starts chiming a little louder with a Tibetan bell. That'd be great. But I do what I can with what I got. And what I got is affording a $10 alarm clock from Walmart. And it's been working like a charm all these years. So my phone is, and this is not a shame thing. This is just letting you know this can be done. My phone gets charged at night in a completely different room in the house. My husband still doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand why I don't bring my phone to bed with me, but I don't. And it's worked extremely well. So screens off before, at least an hour before bed. You know, figure out whatever you're watching on TV, pick the time that you're going to turn the TV off, shut it down, no binging. You know, you've seen an episode, that's good, that's enough. Save the next one for the next night. And then, you know, start putzing around the house, prep your clothes for tomorrow, prep your lunch for tomorrow, you know, just take a bath, go outside, you know, sit in the moonlight. This is especially a nice treatment or a nice protocol for the women who have high pitta, right? You're real fiery types. Being in the moonlight for 10 or 20 minutes at night is so soothing and so cooling. So you could take like a moon bath, as they say in the lingo of Ayurveda, or take a cool bath, a room temp or a warm bath in the tub, maybe a little bit of lavender essential oil in there to help set the scene, set the tone of relaxation. Oiling your parts. What I mean by that is oiling your feet. Talked about that earlier this week with one of the questions that came up about the oiling your feet. It's very grounding when we oil the soles of our feet before we go to bed, using a heavier oil like sesame oil, almond oil. Castor oil is pretty darn thick, but I'd start with sesame or almond. If you tend to sleep hot, try it with coconut oil. And then you're going to put a really light pair of cotton socks on so you don't get your sheets a sticky mess. And it's a very grounding practice and works wonders for many, many people. Putting oil in your ears. This is a practice called Karna Purana, and I believe it's in your manual, so I won't spend a great deal of time on it, but oiling our ears is a way to stave off excess vata. And remember, vata is responsible for that excessive thinking, and that keeps us up or wakes us up at night. Meditation, we've already talked about that. pranayama. On Thursday, I'm going to drop the Brahmari tutorial, and I'll make sure those of you who aren't on FB get the email with that. And also the instructions to Brahmari pranayama are in your manual. Brahmari is a delightfully soothing and calming breathing technique. When I yeah, it's a great breathing technique. So I'll let you read more about that when we get there. Now let's dive into some botanical remedies for insomnia. Passion flower, lavender, skullcap, valerian. These are some. Let's start with passion flower because there's research behind it. And you've got a link at the bottom of the page. Passion flower has been extensively researched with several clinical studies supporting its use in the treatment of insomnia and anxiety, which is a win. Its properties are attributed to a compound called crysine, which is a type of bioflavonoid, which binds to the receptors in the brain. It actually acts in a similar fashion as GABA, G-A-B-A, which is a very important neurotransmitter in the brain that's responsible for calming nervous activity and inducing relaxation. Its efficacy, get this, has now been compared to that of many well-known benzodiazepines, but with less adverse effects. Yay, let that sink in. So passion flower is widely available. You can drink it as a tea. You could use it in extract form as the dosing suggests on the screen. So it can reduce symptoms of anxiety. Now, also, there's early research showing that passion flower reduces some symptoms of ADHD. Now, this is in kids age 6 to 13, but it seems to work really well in studies that have given it to kids for 8 weeks. With regards to insomnia, early research is showing that taking passion flower extract, right, so a tincture, before bedtime can increase total sleep time and improve quality of sleep. Doesn't seem to necessarily help you fall asleep faster or keep you from never waking up, but it is improving the quality of sleep and it is increasing your total sleep time. So that's important. This is an herb, it's an extract, it's very easy to get your hands on. So this is one that you could easily start experimenting with in the next couple of days. One more thing about passion flower, it's been shown effective in withdrawal from heroin, morphine, and other opioid drugs. Taking passion flower extract in addition to a drug called clonidine for 2 weeks has shown to reduce anxiety symptoms better than taking clonidine alone in people that are undergoing opiate detoxification. So, I mean, not necessarily, the demographic here on the screen. However, we all have been touched by the opioid epidemic in some way, shape, or form. So I just thought that was interesting to add in here. Now, passion flower is generally regarded as safe, right? Keep in mind, though, that everybody responds uniquely. Everybody responds uniquely to herbs and formulas like this, or herbal. What am I trying to say? Everybody responds uniquely. So start low, always start low and go slow. You can begin with 1 dropper full and then you can increase in order to get that drowsy effect. Now, the next morning, if you're groggy, you've overdone it. So the next night, back off. This would be an herb that I would try on a weekend, when I don't have anywhere to be and I don't have to be firing off on all my synapses the next day. Give it a shot on Friday night, see how it rolls Saturday night. And hopefully by Sunday, you found the dose that's perfect for you and the way that you're going to metabolize the herb. Let's talk about valerian. Valerian is a relaxant. It's calming. It's a good short-term sedative that works quickly. It offers a healthy, non-toxic alternative to prescription sleep drugs. You can take it at night right before bedtime. It's best for insomniacs who have trouble getting to sleep, not necessarily for those who have trouble staying asleep. The studies indicate that there's significant improvement in falling asleep, like a 76% improvement in falling asleep, and then only a 55% improvement in the duration of sleep. But, if you're not sleeping very well at all, 55% can be pretty, might be pretty helpful for you. The thing about valerian, full disclosure, it stinks. It smells like stinky cheese and it tastes like funk. It's just nasty. So it's not something that I typically recommend in a tea because there's just not the compliance because it's so foul. But if you did it in a tincture, you could drop it into some water and just toss it back. Or you could find it in capsule formula or maybe in a blend with some other herbs. That would be better, and you could bypass that really foul odor and that foul taste. There's a few others that will help address sleep issues. Jetamosi is related to valerian. It's a relative of valerian, so that would be a possible alternative. It's pretty specific to Ayurvedic medicine. It's not something that I ever see on the shelves of health food stores. Shankpushpi, that's another herb that's specific to Ayurvedic medicine. It's a lovely herb. It has an affinity for the nervous system. So particularly if the insomnia is of the heightened nerve of condition, Shankpushpi is an excellent herb to bring in to a compound. It's also Shankpushpi, in Ayurvedic medicine, we look at food and herbs and even lifestyle activities with regards to, is it cooling or is it heating? And Shankpushpi is very much a cooling herb. And so, for ladies who are going through perimenopause or who are in their pitta time of life and who are experiencing a lot of heat, whether it's hot flashes or just heat because of, careers and Jetamosi would be a good option. I want to talk a little bit about nutmeg. Now, nutmeg, you've got some nutmeg, no doubt, on your spice cabinet out in the kitchen. What you may not know about nutmeg is there's a reason that grandma's recipe for pumpkin pie only takes a dash of nutmeg, because nutmeg is extremely powerful. It is one of the go-to sleep aids in Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese medicine. Nutmeg also is a hallucinogen. I know of only 2 people who have taken an entire spice jar of nutmeg. How they choked it down is beyond me. Nutmeg is highly astringent, and it's difficult in big quantities. It's not tasty in big quantities. So how they did it, I don't know, but they were both boys at the time. So go figure, boys, I guess, will do that kind of thing, anything for a good high. So yeah, and they got high and hallucinated. Go figure. I'm not trying it, but nutmeg is a sedative, and it does have sedating action that typically goes into effect in about 3 hours after taking it. Now, you're not going to get that from just a pinch in a piece of pie, but a typical dose is about 3 grams. Again, start low. If you're gonna experiment and do me search with yourself and nutmeg, start low and go slow. Try 1 capsule one night. I mean, you can find nutmeg capsules in health food stores. Try 1 capsule one night. Try 2 the next night. Only adjust and increase incrementally until you find the dose that's good for you. But you really want to allow, with nutmeg in particular, because it is a sedative when taken at these higher, 1, 2, and 3 grams. It is a sedative. So you want to give yourself plenty of sleep time. Again, this is something I would try on a weekend, because if you wake up before 8 hours of sleep, or you have to hit an alarm to get up and get going, you'll probably be pretty darn groggy. I think, yeah, there's a link on the screen, and that is a study that's specific to nutmeg. Now, I have what I call the nutmeg nightcap. One of my clients calls it Ayurvedic Ambien. So you can take a screenshot of this if you'd like. I can't remember if it's in your manual or not off the top of my head, but super simple. The milk of your choice. I always go with a nut milk. A 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. You seriously don't want much more than that. If you want to go to a 1/2 teaspoon, you can, but tap it out at that because it's so strong. A half a teaspoon of ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is a prized adaptogen studied extensively for its ability to regulate sleep cycles, but also for its ability to help us maintain a sustainable energy during the day. Ashwagandha is terrific. So if you've got it, great, add it. If you don't worry about it. Nutmeg is the key player in here. So maybe when, you know, you're watching your 30-minute episode of whatever it is you're streaming, or you're, you know, going to chill out to some classical music and just like, you know, sit by the candlelight for a little while, or read a book, like a real book, not a Kindle, have a nutmeg nightcap, let yourself get drowsy, and then nighty night. Okay, that is, you know, and also in Ayurvedic medicine, I will say this, warm milk is considered a good nighttime elixir, just straight warm milk with some spices. So when you add the nutmeg, you might add turmeric to this, add a little cinnamon, cardamom, saffron, if you really want to get sexy. And then, you know, it's like, I kind of think of it like Pooh Bear, you know, having his warm milk and honey before bed. And it's really delightful, and it really is effective. Okay, so that was a wow, full on pedal to the metal on insomnia. Let's dive into brain fog. The Western, the conventional medical perspective on brain fog is loss of estrogen for sure, emotional stress, absolutely, and lack of sleep. Definitely. And in the East, the Ayurvedic lens views brain fog as vata, air and space, too much vata, too much movement in the nervous system and in the mind. And for those of you who are into the Sanskrit, the words are vata in the maja dhatu and the manovaha shrotas. Maja is the word for nerve. The dhatu is the tissue. So vata in the nervous system, the tissues of the nervous system. Manovaha, manas is the word for mind. So the shrotas, the channels of the mind. So when we have too much vata, too much stimulation, movement, motion, happening in the nervous system and the mind, that's what's happening with brain fog. So the treatment is stress reduction, always stress reduction. Again, this is our first line of defense. We've got to pacify vata and calm the intensity of pitta. Some common botanical strategies include ginkgo biloba, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, brahmi, rosemary, and also I want to add, I don't have a slide on this, but I do want to add that aromatherapy is a popular option these days for stimulating cognition and memory. And I am not affiliated with any essential oil programs or companies. So disclosure. So botanical boost, rosemary, first and foremost. I talk on and on and on. There's your emails have insight on rosemary. The manual's got insight on rosemary. Rosemary is a big deal these days. We know that in ancient Greece, we see those pictures of students, garlands of rosemary worn on the heads of young people, and there was a reason for that. That was to enhance memory and learning by keeping our mind alert and focused. Rosemary has been shown to increase 3 types of memory: long-term memory, which is the information we've saved over time; working memory, which is the information we need to operate, like how do I get from my house to my office without using my iPhone, just memory that I need to operate. How do I get, how do I know I'm getting the correct change back from the cashier? Memory that I need to function. And then perspective memory, that's the memory that has us all scratching our head, once we hit 40, going, what did I come in here for? I don't remember. Or, our vocabulary taking an extended hiatus. So rosemary has been shown to increase all 3 categories of memory. A study in the Ukraine found that rosemary essential oil had a statistically significant increase in memory and cognitive function compared to the control group. Rosemary is a stimulant. It's a mild analgesic. It's a means of reducing mental fatigue, inflammation, and even headaches. Now, there's another study of patients with Alzheimer's disease that found rosemary essential oil to be an effective non-pharmacological therapy for dementia, improving personal orientation as well as cognitive function. This is huge. This is like huge, groundbreaking stuff. It's new, it's early research, but it's promising, incredibly promising. We're beginning to understand that rosemary essential oil is natural, a safe, and an effective means of controlling also free radical damage and oxidative stress in the liver. So how can we get it on board? We can hydrate. You can make rosemary water. I mean, if you do a Google search, you can even find companies that are selling rosemary water. I mean, just buy yourself a plant. I mean, here in Oklahoma, where I live in the northeastern part of the state, I have a rosemary plant that just can't die. I mean, it's outside, it's in the ground, it's in the dirt. It comes back year after year after year. It's super duper hardy. So you can make rosemary water, just sprigs of rosemary. Yeah, I'd take like 4 or 5 sprigs, put it in your water, in your thermos, add a little lemon juice in there, and drink up. The rosemary memory mist, which is in your manual. It's a spray. Make 1, 2, or 3 of those. Even keep one at your office. Keep one at the house. But have that nearby. And of course, using rosemary essential oil in a diffuser would also be appropriate. And I do want to say one thing about diffusers and essential oils. Essential oils, yes, they're natural. And, if you get them from a reputable company, I'm not a fan of MLMs, and I can talk more on that at another time if you want to go there. But Fluorocopia, however you want to say it, .com is a great company. They get their oil sustainably harvested. When they can't get their hands on something, they don't make it up. They just stop selling it. Or when something is endangered, they just stop selling it. And but the thing is, even though this is a natural ingredient, we learned last week, or maybe it was the week before, that the chemical endocrine disruptors can be natural or synthetic. And too much essential oil will disrupt your endocrine system. So when you're using a diffuser, just use it for like 30 minutes and then put the candle out. Just don't go overboard on that stuff. Let's look at Brahmi. Brahmi, one of my absolute all-time favorite herbs. Brahmi in Ayurvedic medicine is called the Shakti of Brahman. It's been used for centuries for mental disorders and epilepsy. It's considered to be very direct. You'll often see Brahmi and gotu kola used interchangeably. They're a little different, the same root, but a little different. Gotu kola is considered to be a little more tonic, so a little smoother, a little slower acting over time. Brahmi is like, get in there and get it done. You can purchase Brahmi pretty easily online. The reputable companies that I like are MAPI, M-A-P-I, and I also like Banyan Botanicals. There may be others, but those are the 2 that I'm most familiar with. So Brahmi and gotu kola, like I said, they can be used interchangeably, but they do have some slightly different properties that I think it's worth noting. Ginkgo biloba. So ginkgo biloba had its big day of fame back in the 80s and the 90s, was studied extensively. And there's the National Institutes of Health had one of the studies that I looked up, but there's a bunch. I mean, it was extensively studied for a couple of decades. That actually shows that there's modest improvement in cognition just over the course of 14 days of using the extract. So it's again generally regarded as safe and something that you can access easily. I consider an OTC, an over-the-counter herb. You can find it pretty quick. So those are the big big herbs that are studied and have some power behind them, some evidence behind them for dealing and handling memory lapse, cognition, and brain fog. Now we're going to look at the midweek sweep, right? So the bathroom sweep. You've cleaned up your diet, you've cleaned up your kitchen, and now we're cleaning up the bathroom. And I'm going to address, there was a question on Facebook. I saw it And I didn't answer it because I knew I was going to touch base on it tonight. And I'll make sure that I go back to that post and say, hey, make sure you, anybody who's interested in this, check the recording. And I'll talk about in just a moment about BPA. So first of all, these ingredients, the parabens, the phthalates, the triclosan, triclocarbon, and fragrance. Now there's a whole slew of endocrine disrupting chemicals lurking around in our cosmetics and our skincare, to be sure. But I'm just going to dive into these 4 tonight. So parabens. Parabens are found in our personal care products, medical tubing, sunscreen. They're a group of chemicals that are used as artificial preservatives in cosmetics and body care products. They've been used since the 1920s. So since cosmetics contain ingredients that can biodegrade, these chemicals, these parabens, are added to prevent and reduce the growth of harmful bacteria and mold. Yeah, sounds great. And also to increase the shelf life of the product. Yeah, that sounds great. But the flip side is, the concern is that scientific studies show that parabens can disrupt hormones in the body, harm fertility and reproductive organs, affect birth outcomes, cause skin irritations, and increase the risk of cancer. Ain't nobody got time for any of that. Phthalates. Boy, phthalates, we talked about phthalates last week in the kitchen sweep, because they're a widely used group of endocrine disrupting chemicals, and that's EDC is the acronym for that, endocrine disrupting chemicals, that have been linked to problems with the reproductive system, including hormonal changes, thyroid irregularities, birth defects of the reproductive systems of baby boys. Phthalates, as we learned last week, is used as a plasticizer. They're ubiquitous in our household products and our food containers, children's toys, plastic wrap made from PVC, as well as many of our personal care products and our cosmetics. In cosmetics, phthalates are typically used to maintain the scent of fragrances and colognes and perfumes, hair products, deodorants, lotions, body washes. And researchers from George Washington University and the University of California found that, get this, vaginal douching, I don't know if it, well, anyway, found that vaginal douching was strongly associated with increased levels of a breakdown product of diethyl phthalate in women's urine. The more frequently a woman used a douche, the higher was the concentration. Women who douched more than 2 times a month had, get this, 152% higher concentrations of the metabolite than women who didn't use douches. Now, I should do a little seminar on douching, and we just need to stop. There's other things we need to do, but we need to not be douching with all that. What was it back in the day? The Messengil or something. It was all like scented and whatnot. We need to not be doing that. Women shopping for feminine care products and cosmetics should check the label to avoid phthalates, and you'll see it like listed as DEP and DBP. Keep in mind, they're not always explicitly identified on the label, on the ingredient list. So something to be wary of is the vague term fragrance. The word fragrance just on its own can hide a multitude of evils lurking in your product. Let's look at triclosan and triclocarbon. And this is another slide that you might want to take a screenshot of, because these little bullet points are all names. They're all names for these triclosan and triclocarbon. So triclosan is a powerful pesticide registered with the EPA and classified as an EDC, an endocrine disrupting chemical, because of its ability to interfere with estrogen, androgen, and thyroid systems. Triclosan can cause body changes, can cause changes in the human hormone system, harming reproduction and development. Recent studies show that higher triclosan levels in people are linked to increased sensitivity to allergens, and increased linked to increased preterm births and smaller newborns. So, I mean, we're passing our fertile years, so, but something to be aware of. You'll find triclosan's been used as a pesticide since 1969, and you'll find it in soaps and shampoos, conditioners, lotions, toothpastes, shaving products, and deodorants. Now, here's the good news. It's not all doom and gloom. In 2017, the FDA prohibited the use of triclosan and triclocarbon and 16 other antimicrobial chemicals in soap products. Okay. That's great. However, the agency continues to allow the use of the chemicals in other personal care items. So you've got to look for these alternate names. It's not just going to say, not necessarily just going to say triclosan on the label, but here's a shot that shows that it does on some. So, you know, keep an eye open for it. Yeah, it's antibacterial, but you know, it's a pesticide. And with the abundant studies and this incredible field of gut microbiome, of the microbiota now these days, in the last 10 years, this has really just blown up and exploded. I mean, we all know we need to get dirty. I mean, if you can live with a pet, live with a pet. Let the pet lick you. We need to get dirty. We need to be exposed to dirt. It's actually really healthy for us to do that. So look for triclosan and triclocarbon and some of these other names that were on this previous screen right here. Now let's talk about fragrance. In the last 10 years, again, we're going to leave on some, stop on some good news. In the last 10 years, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and Unilever are beginning to display more and more transparency around the chemicals that make up the, air quotes, fragrance in many of their products, with 3,163 ingredients hiding behind the word fragrance. This is a great start. Love it. Applause, applause. The fragrance and perfume, cologne, and body spray can be concocted from any number of that 3,100 chemical ingredients, the blend of which is often kept secret from the consumer. So this is called fragrance, or sometimes called even more lurking, in my opinion, is when it says natural fragrance or natural flavor. Well, if it's natural, just tell me what it is. You know, is it blueberry or is it a chemical blueberry? Just tell me what it is. Makers of popular scents market their signature aromas with terms like floral, exotic, musky, but few of them actually disclose that their formulas are a complex cocktail of these natural essences and synthetic chemicals like phthalates, which are hormone disruptors. And that's what we're trying to eliminate from our world. So, one more thing. I said I would touch base on this. So there was, this tea, y'all, is just my jam. There was a photo in the Facebook group of a thermos, a BPA-free water bottle. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so here, the timing could not have been more serendipitous, because just last week, at the end of the week, and I printed it off, just last week, I got my my monthly newsletter from the Institute of Functional Medicine, of which I am a professional member. And we get these great newsletters with all the recent research. And, you know, truth be told, some of it's way over my head. I'm not a doctor, but some of it I find incredibly fascinating. So here we go. I have a 4 pages of endocrine disrupting chemicals, substances that alter endocrine function, prevalent in the air, water, soil, everyday products that affect the majority of the world population. This 4-page article is about everything we've been talking about, these endocrine disrupting chemicals, and their link to obesity and diabetes, specifically to their link, speaking to their link to obesity and type 2 diabetes. So we've got here a spotlight on BPA, a spotlight on dioxin, which we talked about, other EDCs, and then concerns with long-term and low-level exposures, confounding factors. So anyway, it's a lot, but basically what I want to say for tonight is, in this half a page on BPA and its link, recent studies indicating its link to obesity and type 2 diabetes, very last sentence says, importantly, BPA substitutes, in parentheses, plastics labeled as BPA free, show similar endocrine disrupting effects, sometimes even at lower doses. So that's insane. That's crazy, but it's the truth of the world we live in. So in other words, these BPA free products are disrupting our hormonal systems even at smaller doses. So if I wouldn't do it. I mean, it's no shame, no blame, no judgment, right? Let me just preface it. We are all doing, I guarantee you, I've got something in my bathroom right now that has probably a paraben in it. And I do my damnedest to I do my best to look at every ingredient and all the things. When we know better, we can do better. Who said that? Was that Maya Angelou? When we know better, we can do better. So we're making small steps. If you want to rip the Band-Aid off and just throw everything out of your bathroom and everything out of your kitchen, that's an option. That's not reality for most of us. So if you have a choice between drinking out of a plastic water bottle that you buy at the convenience store or drinking out of your BPA free water bottle, and those are the only two options, you do the lesser of the two evils, right? If you have a choice of drinking out of a bottle that's BPA free or a bottle that is stainless steel, drink out of the stainless steel, right? I have this. Maxine recognizes this. I have this and I love it. So go for your stainless steel or go for your glass. We do the best we can with the resources that we have, with the funds that we have, we do the best that we can. And we're learning every day. We're learning as we go. I mean, just last week, I get this 4-page article that is, it's educating me now more so on, it's more than just hormones. It's more than just reproductive deformities and issues with our reproductive systems. Now it's obesity and type 2 diabetes. More is constantly being revealed to us. So as we learn, as we grow, when we know better, we can do better. So to answer the question on Facebook, BPA free water bottle, is this okay? Not really. Not according to the Institute of Functional Medicine. So you can take it up with them. Okay, so lastly, oh, okay, we're like a minute over time. If you need to log off, I understand. I understand. Lastly, love your liver. You're still going strong with the aloe tonic every day, twice a day. I know your teeth are turning orange, but brush your teeth after you drink it. Liver formula tablets. Now in the manual, we're still doing 1 tablet twice a day. Next week, we're gonna add Kutki to this. And Kutki is a powerhouse of a liver cleaner. If 1 tablet twice a day, if you're like smooth sailing through that, you have a pass to take that up to like 2 tablets in the morning and 1 tablet in the evening. I mean, you can go up to 2 tablets twice a day, 4 tablets total. I'm going to leave that up to you. That's not going to be appropriate for everyone. How do you know? Well, I mean, these liver tablets they're just hitting your liver hardcore, right? So they're very bitter, they're very astringent. They're working well when your bowels are working well, because it's stimulating liver, it's stimulating bile through your gallbladder. So if you're eliminating, some of you might notice you're eliminating maybe more copiously, maybe more generous amounts. But if your elimination is going off, right? So somebody who is a high vata constitution, all the bitter herbs might be disrupting them and taking them more towards constipation. We don't want that. We've got to be eliminating on the daily with as we clean out our liver, because all of that, all of the environmental toxins and the toxic burden load that our liver is trying to unload basically needs to go out through the colon. Otherwise, it's being recirculated in the body, right? So we've got to have our bowels moving well. If you're leaning towards constipation, you're going to back off the liver tablets. Likewise, if your bowels are getting too hot, then I would start with backing off the triphala. And we've got to find this happy medium. Some of you, I mean, I've had a conversation with one of you, just might want to like stop everything for 3 days and let's kind of like regroup. And again, start low and go slow. Just bring one thing in at a time. Maybe it's the aloe, right? And then give that 3 or 4 days, and then maybe add a liver tablet or yeah, you know, just baby steps. And those of you who are you know, having having some uncertainties with elimination, you know, we're talking, and again, keep me posted. This week you're adding the liver support tea. Now the liver support tea is mild, it's a little bitter, it's got a little bit of a bitter taste to it, but the licorice root adds some sweetness to it. You know, if you just make 1 cup of tea, and you can dilute it as much as you like, steep it for as little or for as long as you like, as you know, for the taste, so that you can tolerate it. The liver support tea is really just that. It's just a supporting player. It's not gonna, it won't create an enormous, it shouldn't create a big, enormous impact on how your body's responding. Now that said, I have put in the emails that if you want to, you know, make yourself a really strong thermos of tea, 2 bags into a thermos, and, you know, steep it long and sip on that throughout the day. You just pay attention to how your body responds. Notice how your elimination's doing. The more copious, the better is always the good. Oh, what am I trying to say? Always what we want to look for when we're going through any sort of unburdening of our body and our liver. So you're adding in 2 cups of the liver support tea a day, and we'll do see how your body responds to that. And there we go. Let me jump into the chat box real quick, everybody. And we've got we're 5 minutes over time, so I'll just roll through this quick. And if you need to pop off, pop off. Let's see. Links for the yoga nidra. Yeah, I will do links for the yoga nidra. Yeah, great, Maxine. Turn it off, babe. Audio issues. Passion flower is nature's Xanax. Yes, I think it is. Restless leg syndrome. So, you know, magnesium is something that is often recommended for restless leg syndrome, and you can like take that as a capsule or tablet, or you can use the product that's called Calm, which you can buy. I think you can buy it at like Walgreens or CVS or a grocery store. It's a powder, magnesium powder. So you can try that for restless leg syndrome. Shankpushpi. Shankpushpi would be my go-to, and I would probably formulate it with maybe 1 or 2 other herbs that were very calming and had an affinity for the nervous system with regards to restless leg syndrome. I kind of think I have a formula for that somewhere in my little toolbox. I'll double check, but I think Jackie, you and I are going to talk next week so we can explore that. And yeah, Catherine wants the 4-page article on the from the Institute of Functional Medicine, because she's such a strong pitta and she likes all the data. And I appreciate that so much. And thanks for the compliment on the glasses. Okay, yeah, that's great. So I hope that I hope the audio was okay for everyone tonight. I know this was just a fire hose of information to you tonight, and you have the recording to roll through it as often as you'd like. I will figure out a way, if I can, maybe I can download or get the link to the article that I referenced from the functional medicine, and I'll send it out to everybody. I'll do it both Facebook and email, so everybody gets an opportunity. And yeah, so great. Week 3, here we go. All we're doing is adding tea. We're just adding tea. Keep doing what you're doing. Eliminating the big 6, that's old school right now. You're like, It's a non-issue for you right now. Keep rolling through those salads, rolling through as much fiber as you can get into your body, all the plants, the legumes, the chickpeas, try some mushrooms. But I love watching the recipes float across the Facebook page. So thanks for sharing all of those. I mean, you're, like I said at the very first meeting, you're not stuck with the recipes that are in the manual. Those are just like, here's some ideas for easy, for the women who are like working full time and have families and whatnot. Here's easy meal prep: lotus bowls, which is my take on a Buddha bowl or a grain bowl, and mason jar salads. I mean, two of the easiest meal prep things ever in the whole world. So beyond that, there's a whole worldwide web of recipes to explore. That's all for tonight, ladies. And thank you so much. And I'll get this off to you first thing in the morning, or as soon as it uploads and downloads and side loads and does all those things. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you showing up. And I'm off to drink the rest of my dark chocolate Ticino. I'm telling you, this stuff is the shiz. It is so good. All right, I'll see you. Bye.